I cannot emphasize how much I hate the Neon Mixtape tour in Plants vs Zombies 2. This world is so unbalanced, so unfair, that on some days you spend hours and on others a toddler could do it on their first attempt. But before we see my descent into madness, why don't you subscribe and tickle my bell for no reason whatsoever, and in case you missed it, the previous videos in this challenge are on the playlist on screen. We start Freaky Mixtape Tour on day 1, where we meet the gimmick of this world, 80s porn stars and fire tunes that turn the zombies' slow walk speed into a mad rush to take whatever white substance they can get their hands on. Fortunately for us, day 1 was a simple day that we beat on our first attempt, but this was even more difficult than every other day 1 in this challenge so far, not a good sign for things to come. Continuing on to day 2, we meet our first new zombie type of this world, the emo zombie, who has returned for round 2. What these stupid little guys do is they make it their life's mission to ram their steel-capped boot right up your arsehole, and they will kick any plant into oblivion in order to do so. Fortunately, day 2 was another day we managed to beat on our first attempt. Day 3 was a conveyor belt day, so here's a picture of Chill Bill, and day 4 was already our first close call. We lost every single mower on this day, but we somehow managed to scrape by relatively unscathed. Day 5 was the first of our many failures in Neon Mixtape Tour. We had to protect these endangered plants, but an issue appeared. Our corn on the cob did not do enough damage to tackle these zombies before they all reached my plant and gobbled them up, and we didn't even have enough sun to put down enough sad tomatoes to protect them. This meant I had to pull out the first ace in my ass, the sunbean. By feeding the very first zombie as many sunbeans as he could handle and blowing him up, we managed to get just enough sun to put a sad tomato in each lane, allowing us to beat this day after only just a couple of attempts. This was followed by day 6, which was another conveyor belt day, and day 7, which was actually pretty easy. However, on day 7 we were introduced to the roller skate zombie, who protects every single zombie behind them when music plays, but with the help of the sad tomato, they didn't pose much of a threat whatsoever. Continuing on to day 8, we had another fairly simple day that got easier as it went on. But the second this day started, music was already blasting in our ears, leading the zombies to attempt to rush me and eat my ass. Fortunately, I beat this day on my first attempt. Continuing on to day 9, it was a day where I had to complete it with pre-picked plants, and day 10 was a Chill Bill day. This was once again followed by another pre-picked plant day on day 11. Usually I would complain about the amount of gimmick days, but the less I had to play Neon Mixtape Tour, the better. Moving on to day 12, we are introduced to our next new zombie type, the Michael Jacksoff zombie. The way this little fucker works is when he gets close to any plant, he spins his cock and balls, taking out any plant in the way. Fortunately, since I'm not exactly lacking in any range, he didn't exactly pose much for challenge yet, and we passed day 12 without too much agony. Day 13 was a truly troublesome day. It was a plan your defences day, so I started with my usual setup with corn and sad tomatoes while sprinkling in some mints. But due to my insane lack of DPS, I couldn't even make a dent in the insane number of zombies that this day threw at me, leading me to fail this day multiple times. I tried so many strategies, and by many, I mean I tried this one strategy with 5 strawberries, but that completely fucked up. Unfortunately, I had to make the executive decision to call back in my good old friend the Bramble, who still had his full suit of armour on. Naturally, my Bramble friend managed to save the day with this expertly crafted setup. Day 14 was a pre-picked plant day, and day 15 was another protect the endangered plant day. Unfortunately, on our first couple of attempts, Michael Jacksoff spun it all over the endangered plants, leading us to fail. This happened so many times that I had to once again call up my good old friend the Bramble. Now I know what you're thinking, the Bramble is so ungodly busted, and yes it is, but I'm trying not to use him unless I absolutely have to, and I'm afraid I did have to on this day. I swear to God, this whole world was designed with levelling plants in mind. Continuing on to day 16, we encountered a Chill with Bill from the planet Chill. And then we had the easiest days in the entire Neon Mixtape Tour, with day 17 and day 18 being so stupidly easy I probably could have done this when I was fresh out the womb while huffing a pipe. We then had to seal the deal with another Chill Bill day before continuing on to day 20, where I had yet another realisation. I could actually use the imitator, since a previous video on this run mentioned that I did actually grow potatoes, so I'm cashing in my potato privileges now. Naturally, I wasted the imitator on this day, day since I cloned the sad tomato, who already has a very short cooldown, but we still managed to beat day 20 on our first attempt. This was then followed by day 21. Day 21 fucking sucked. It was such horseshit, and I swear to God, it relied so heavily on luck and RNG that I just started to lose my fucking mind. This was so difficult, in fact, that I decided I needed to level up myself in real life, so I popped some Tylenol and continued this level. The issue on this day was these breakdance zombies flinging their friends towards me, and sometimes they would just throw their friends onto this flower bed that I needed to protect, catching me with my pants down. That, and since they spawned so early in the day, I couldn't get enough sad tomatoes down in time. To mitigate this issue, I decided to use the imitator on the sunbeam to double my early sun production, but even then, it wasn't enough, since a Garg spawned in not long after these breakdancing fucks, and he would just stroll up to the flowers like a Catholic priest going to a primary school. I failed this day about 20 times before I once again decided to call up my brambles and managed to beat the day on the first attempt, after placing these brambles sporadically all over the place. If this doesn't prove this game is pay to win, I don't know what will. Now is also the perfect time to mention this whole world was streamed over at twitch.tv/Whoie, so if you want to see me crash out live, come give me a follow or I'm gonna steal your feet. Day 22 was another chill Bill day where we chill with Bill. And on day 23, we are introduced to yet another new zombie type, the nerd zombie, who pushes this arcade thing. Now, for some reason, this day was a goddamn cakewalk compared to the other days in this world, so we can move straight on to day 24, which was another plan your defences day. Now, I knew here that my old setup would not have enough firepower to deal with the insane amount of zombies that were to come, so I went with the old reliable Bramble strategy. Unfortunately, I encountered some trouble here. It turns out, when the nerd zombie pushes an arcade machine, he destroys any plant in front of him instantly, including my brambles, leaving me completely and utterly defenceless. Fortunately, I had some plant food and mints to deal with this guy, so I managed to beat this day on my first attempt with the help of some lawnmowers. This tough day was followed by some piss easy days with day 25 and 26, which were so easy, I'm not even going to bother covering them. We then chilled with Bill on day 27, and on day 28, we were introduced to the next zombie type of Neon Mixtape Tour. The Freddie Mercury zombie who decides to serenade our plants, putting them to sleep every time he plays music out of his boombox. Fortunately, my jalapeno dealt with him, meaning he was no problem whatsoever, and day 28 was beaten without too much stress. Same goes for day 29, which just goes to show the folks down at Poop Cap in 2013 must have spent a whole 30 seconds collectively balancing Neon Mixtape Tour. I would rather play Big Wave Beach than this shit. Day 30 was the final day we could complete with our own plants, and the gimmick of this day was to have no more than 15 plants at any given time. But with some fast reactions using the sunbeam and sad tomato stacking, this day actually wasn't too hard after the first 30 seconds, just like your dad. We can now finally finish this travesty of a world by beating day 31 with given plants and moving on to the Zomboss, where we get our good old friend Nemesis Blood Rice 22 to come down from the YouTube comment section and smite the Zomboss. And if you want to be my assistants on the next episode, make sure to comment Cowabunga Cheddar Cheese in the comments below. And with that, we have finally finished Freaky Mixtape Tour, the part of the challenge I have been dreading. We are finally on the home stretch now, only 3 worlds to go before I have to repeat this whole challenge with only spring beans.